Presents Mr. Korobov with a shield bearing the County Durham coat of arms. His gift to Durham is a picture painted by a local artist. Then it's time for some personal introductions.
I'm Wilfred Proctor, I'm 17, now I'm halfway through my sixth form and I'm doing geography, history, English literature and Latin.
Of course, there's always one show-off in every group.
Меня зовут Stuart McNeil. Я журналист.
Although Kostroma was founded in the 12th century, the oldest part of the town dates from the early 19th century. The Russians have a profound sense of history, and monuments to heroes and war dead abound. Apparently Lenin said, "When I die, please don't erect a statue of me. The only creatures that like statues are pigeons." Nobody listened. There are thousands of statues like this all over the Soviet Union. Kostroma's own local hero is this man here, Ivan Sasanin. In the early 17th century, the country was being invaded by the Poles, and they wanted to know the quickest route to Moscow. Ivan was a wily peasant, and he deliberately took them through marshland and woodland. The army got lost, they perished, and so did Ivan. The Soviet Union lost millions of its citizens in the Second World War. Remembering the dead is a duty which even visitors are expected to share in. Life for the average Kostroma citizen is austere by our standards. Many essential goods are in short supply, there are no pubs and clubs, and few places of entertainment. Shop window displays are drab because there's not much to put in them, and when the state's the monopoly supplier, there's no competition and therefore no need to advertise. This is the nearest equivalent to a supermarket you'll find in Kostroma. The manageress reluctantly agreed to let us in to take a few shots. She said we might get in the way of the customers, although they seem to be fairly thin on the ground. It's astonishing to learn that basic commodities like soap and washing powder are rationed because there's a shortage. But the thing that really catches the visitors' eye is the queues. Russians queue for all sorts of things. They even queue for their beer and vodka, which is also in short supply since President Gorbachev, or Lemonade Joe as the Russians call him, launched a drive against alcoholism. Beer costs 50 pence a litre, but you bring your own container. Let me try this. I escaped my round again, didn't I? Well, it's not quite best bidder. It's not bad on a hot day. On the plus side, public transport is cheap and plentiful. Well, we in Britain have got rid of our trolley buses, but here in Kostroma, most people travel to work and to the shops by trolley bus. You can travel any distance by trolley bus for just 5 pence, and the driver will more than likely be a woman. This one earns around £270 a month, which is a good wage by Russian standards. Our bus driver will almost certainly live in a high-rise flat, of the sort we now consider unsuitable for family life. But the Russians continue to build these vast monolithic structures, which, however tastefully decorated on the inside, have a uniform drabness viewed from the outside. Perestroika, or reconstruction, is Mr. Gorbachev's attempt to modernize the Soviet economy. The aim is to improve productivity and efficiency by offering people greater financial rewards. Cooperatives are also being given greater freedom to control their own affairs. It's still not private enterprise as we know it, but a small step along the way, and most people welcome it.
I
think perestroika is a great thing. Well, many people welcome it. And for my part, I try to do
what I can to help perestroika.
And is it now a more open and freer society?
И как вы считаете, так сказать, ваше общество становится более открытым, более свободным?
Да, по сравнению, конечно, с другими, вот с прошедшими годами.
Compared to the previous years, our society is much more open.
Are you happy with the changes that have been taking place recently in your country?
Нет.
I'm not happy about that.
Why not?
А почему?
Почему? Во-первых, чтобы почувствовать, наверное, какие-то изменения в стране.
Because I don't see any radical economic changes in this country. They are still to go.
And what changes would he like to see?
Ну, прежде всего, наверное, тут как все...
Just like all Soviet people, I would like to see more goods in our shops.
Потому что многие не согласны с этим.
The progress of perestroika is rather slow to his way of thinking. And I think, well, he has some executives are in the way of perestroika process. Well, people must have a greater say. And then you see perestroika will proceed more quickly.
Boris Korobov, the acting chairman of the local party, is a progressive, forward-looking man whose conversation is sprinkled with words like initiative and enterprise. He wants greater freedom from Moscow and worries that perestroika is taking too long to achieve.
Появилась активность большая по созданию новых предприятий, производств, кооперативное движение.
The acting chairman is not quite happy with the progress of perestroika too. Well, there are certain achievements. Well, we got cooperative movement, leasing, switching to cost accounting, etc., etc. But I think that the mentality of people should be changed. You see, people should show greater enterprise, etc. Certainly, we are interested in gaining more autonomy, in becoming more independent. And in this case, we'll become real masters, and it means that we have more funds in our budget to develop our social sphere.
Частью улучшения благосостояния нашего народа.
Mr. Korobov is trying to encourage foreign investment to develop Kostroma's tourist potential. A deal's been signed with Yugoslavia to build a luxury hotel beside the Volga, but he'd also like to see investment from Britain.
Мы решаем вопросы сегодня с предприятиями, с нашими по обмену, допустим.
We are interested in getting more hard currency for the further development of the city. Also, when the chairman of Durham County Council was here, we discussed possible developments of cooperation between Kostroma and Durham in the sphere of economy. We might also have some economic relationships, apart from the development of tourist exchange.
И наше развитие городского хозяйства.
Well, it looks like an absolutely fascinating place, Stuart. Back from the Russian front, how did you find the experience?
Certainly different. I've never stayed in a hotel before. It's impossible to get a drink. Every time you ask for a beer, pivo, they said niet. But no, seriously, I mean, the living standards are lower than ours. The lifestyle is quite different. But what struck everybody was the enormous hospitality of the Russian people. And I'm not just talking about the official receptions. I stayed with a Russian journalist and his family. We all stayed with families, and the hospitality was simply overwhelming. And they're great givers of presents. They give you a present, and if you give one in return, they give you one back, and so the process goes on forever. And we had a most amazing experience on the last night before we left. Ken Pollard, the producer, was very friendly with a couple who presented him with this large box. And when he opened it, he found inside, guess what, a pressure cooker. Now, I mean, I don't know what a pressure cooker costs in Russia, but I imagine it costs far more, relatively speaking, than it does here. I also suspect they're probably in short supply. So that was a very, very generous gift from them. We had a devil of a job getting it back. We had to conceal it in one of the camera boxes. But they are wonderfully warm people.
Now, they're not used to Westerners in Kostroma at all, are they? I mean, how generally were you received over there? Were they surprised at your views? Or?
I think they were fascinated. I mean, I doubt really if they've even seen a Soviet TV crew, let alone a crew from Britain. The radio, I was interviewed on radio, the radio reporter described it as a major political event. I mean, that's how they treated the visit. I mean, everywhere we went, we were bombarded with questions about life in the West, and all this has happened in the last couple of years. It wouldn't have been possible until Glasnost came along for them to ask these questions and to be so open. We were filming a photographer in the town one day, and he was taking pictures of tourists posing by a bear, a stuffed bear, I hasten to add. And when he found out we were from Britain, a Western TV crew, he insisted on a bit of role reversal, and he lined us up against the producer, reporter and the crew with the bear. And in fact he gave us a photograph free, which was very nice of him.
Did you have much freedom to film there?
Well, in fact, we didn't know what to expect when we arrived there, and that we found a very, very heavy programme laid out for us. And it contained visits here, there and everywhere. A visit, for instance, to a nuclear power station and a fish farm. And we had to be very, very tactful. We had to explain that although these were interesting things, we did have them in Britain, and there were other things that we would rather film. We'd rather get out in the streets of Kostroma, talk to ordinary people, find out what their views are about things like perestroika and glasnost. And when we explained this, actually they bent over backwards. They laid on transport, and nothing was too much trouble.
That's amazing. So what about the weather then? Because everybody imagines Russia to be the icy wastes and a bit sort of devastated and backward. Is it like that?
They've been having a sweltering hot summer, just like ours. I mean, the temperature most of the time was in the 70s and 80s. You're right, I mean, we do tend to think of Russia being cold, and in winter time the temperature gets down to -20 and -30 centigrade. In fact, in a typical Russian winter, the Volga freezes over to a depth of 4 feet, and it's possible actually to walk across from one bank to the other, or even skate there. I don't think I'd fancy a winter in Kostroma, to be quite honest with you.
So what have you got lined up for us for the rest of the week then, Stuart? Briefly.
Well, I mean, the film we've just seen is really a glimpse of life in Kostroma through Western eyes. But of course we went with 20 Durham teenagers, and the unique thing was that they were staying with Russian families. So tomorrow night we'll be going inside some Russian homes and seeing how the Brits and the Russians get on together. What else have we got lined up? I can't think now. Yes, we do a tourist bit, including the black market. We also attend a Russian wedding, and that's fascinating. And the last thing we do is a visit to Moscow, where we sort of consider our final thoughts about the country.
Well, you did bring some music back with you as well, didn't you, Stuart?
Yes, we were visiting an art gallery in Kostroma one day, and we came across this folk group, not actually from Kostroma, but somewhere south of Moscow. And we liked what we heard, and we said to them, would you mind us recording you? And they said, sure, da. And they all trotted outside, and they lined up, and they sang us a song, which was very nice.
Great, well thank you very much for joining us, Stuart. And we'll leave you with some of that traditional Russian folk music. From me, it's good night.
And from me, до свидания.
Дай поведать, как минула неделька. В воскресенье я на ярмарку ходила, веретенка кудельку купила. Тюря-тюря-тюря-тюря-тюря-тюря, тюря-тюря-тюря-тюря-тюря. В понедельничек я банюшку топила, а во вторник я в баньку ходила. Тюря-тюря-тюря-тюря-тюря.